Okay, back again. Getting more comfortable with this new setup. Starting to feel pretty good. I could rename the videos. I was actually looking for that feature yesterday to see if it was like a preference, and then I noticed there's like a little spot in the bottom for me to do it like right before the stream. So I will get in the habit of doing that going forward. And maybe I'll make a playlist or some way to sort of categorize all these other live streams so they don't like clutter up everything. But anyways, we're back. So I wanted to keep working on this nav bar. We got a bunch of this done yesterday, but there's still a bunch to do. One thing that we kind of skipped, anyways, was building this little chevron or this little kind of arrow thing, and it felt like a hard problem, and I didn't want to just sit here silently brainstorming on it, so we kind of skipped past it. But a couple people on Twitter suggested some good ideas that I had sort of considered, but I didn't want to get stuck in the weeds on. But they were able to kind of prove that it's viable. So I think it'll be fun to kind of hack on that maybe as the very first thing. So to kind of reiterate the general problem, basically the issue is you want this like arrow to be like lined up with this arrow at all times, no matter what. And it's tough because this card is positioned relative to this text, and that's basically positioned relative to the left edge. We use like some negative margin, I think, or something to pull it off to the left currently. I'd have to go and see where the card is to figure that out. Yeah, we use like a negative ML6 to pull it to the left. But that means that it's not anchored relative to like this portion, right? Which makes it tough. So the solution, I think, in general is going to be to do this little arrow as a totally separate piece of UI that is relative to this chevron so that we can anchor it next to that and have the card and the arrow not even be like in the same part of the HTML, but just have them sort of visually appear that way, but implementation wise they won't. So let's hack on that a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find this chevron. We're going to wrap that in an element with position relative, so we can actually create this little arrow. I'm trying to rely just on this the comments that Ecamm Live shows me, and I haven't used it enough to feel totally confident that it's always going to keep synced up with YouTube, but hopefully it does. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't get behind or anything weird like that. All right, so we've got this span here. Let's stick like another span here, and this will just be like a visual thing with no other styles. Let's look at what size Steve used for this. This is going to be kind of hard to check. I'm guessing it's probably, if we did something that was like 24 by 24 and we rotated it 90 degrees, that didn't work. 45? I'm so stupid. Is that pretty close? Like that's probably close enough, yeah? So let's make something that size. So do H6W6, let's just do like BG Red 500 and just like see this thing on screen, hopefully. We got nothing. Okay, so let's make it display block, position absolute. All right, so we've got a red block. So let's rotate it. So we'll do transform rotate 45. Now, interestingly, you can see these are not lined up. So let's think about how we could do that. If we don't rotate this, it should still like be off center, right? And if we open up the dev tools, let's just kind of look at where these are positioned and think about like the right way to do it. So basically, I think what we want to do is pull it left by half the width of the other thing above it. So I think we actually do have like negative ML 2.5. That didn't quite work the way that I expected. What's wrong with my math? Do we have to pull it left by half the difference between them? Negative ML 0.5? That's probably right. Yeah, half the difference, not half the thing. All right, so we pull it back by 2 pixels because this thing is 4 pixels bigger than the other thing. If we did with a translate, I don't think it would work. Like negative translate. I think that's going to go back too far. Yeah. Because it's going by half of itself, but in this case, it needs to be half of the other thing. Now we could use a translate x of this value too. Doesn't really matter. Really makes no difference in this case. Maybe we will do it that way. And yeah, so let's bring back our rotation, and now we should see that like the corners line up, which is good. And I think now we just want to figure out how to position it so that it hits here. So let's go back to 0 for a second and think about this mathematically. So this element here has MT7, and I wonder why see how this button is taller than the icon? That's a bummer. But we can figure it out for sure. Translate y minus 50% will not be right. So I think what I'm going to start doing is just like translate y 4, and we'll just like get it approximately in the right place. And then we'll look at like what the value is that put it pretty much in the right place, and think about mathematically, does it make sense? So 5 is too much. 4 is not enough. So this is where I would start doing something like MT4 and translate y 0.5 or something. Right, so that's bang in the middle. So this should look, yeah, so now you can see those points line up perfectly, so that's good. Does Steve use a sharp corner on it? Yeah, he does. So let's make this white. And we need to add like the shadow to it. Now, this border that we're getting here is actually created using a 1 pixel semi-transparent box shadow. So I'll show you what happens if we add that shadow XS. All right, so you can see like we got it looking okay, right? The issue now, of course, is that this cuts over top of the card. And we don't want it to do that. So you might be thinking, okay, well, let's take this element, the card, and maybe we get rid of this like Z10 and we just kind of let the card go in front or whatever. Okay, but now you got this other problem where this border cuts all the way across. So I think the solution is going to be to do like a Z index of like 20 maybe on this element. A Z index of, I think I'm going to put the Z indexes at the very beginning so that when you're just scanning, you can kind of grok it a little bit better. A Z index of 10 on this to pull this behind. And then I think what we're going to do is a relative Z30 on this to pull the card in front. Huh, that's not working, eh? Maybe because of this. That needs to be Z auto probably. Okay, there we go. So we might not even have to we might not need this at all. We might just need to pull this forward. Okay, it looks like we do need something. 10 and 20, maybe? Probably. All right, so that's the right solution. So now, basically what's happening is we've got the white background of the card is sitting in front of the chevron, but the borders of the card is sitting behind, basically we've like injected this sort of like here. We've put it in between those sort of layers visually. It's kind of quirky. There's probably some things to consider in terms of how it would interact with the rest of the page. There's one annoying thing, which you might not be able to see, but if you look like right... if you look right in this corner, you'll see like a tiny little diamond that is darker. So if we went over to like Figma here, you'll see right there this darker area because you got two shadows meeting each other. That's not it's not my favorite kind of thing in the world, right? But I think when you zoom out and you just kind of look at this on the whole, you can kind of see it. But I think I can live with it because I don't see any other solution to that, really. And I think I've looked at other implementations, like Stripe, for example, has the same problem in their drop-downs. So I think I just have to live with that, unfortunately. Unless anyone can think of a really clever way to solve that. Basically, like what we want to do conceptually is somehow put a white layer in between this and that. I guess you could I'm going to try something that I don't think is going to be the best solution. Say we just duplicated this and we got rid of the box shadow. And I guess you have to make it 1 pixel bigger. That's the challenge. Yeah, that makes it hard. You could say like style equals scale. Scale, transform scale. Let's think. If we have something that's 24 pixels, we want to make it 26 pixels, then we're going to have to scale it by 1.083. It's going to be kind of gross. And it still doesn't work, surprisingly. Let's make BG red 500 for a second. It's still not growing. Maybe that's the transform scale X. Transform scale Y. Does this get 1 pixel bigger? Yes, okay. So now if this was white and we got rid of this, I think this would look right now. Yeah, so that does solve it, but obviously this is a horrifying thing to have to do. And some of these classes could probably be simplified. I can't think of another way to do it with Tailwind utilities. Like another way to do it in theory, right, is to create a border that's a semi-transparent border, place the white thing underneath it. The other thing that's not ideal about, well, actually it is fine in this case because the card is always white. If I could think of another way to, if we used a border and we just put the border on the inside and just made the arrow a little bit smaller, that would be like a really pretty easy solution. But the problem is we don't have a border that matches that shadow color. The icons are drawn by Steve, my business partner. So I just use these icons that he drew. This is maintained by a community member, Zaydek. I'm not sure if that's the best way to pronounce it, but these are all on GitHub, and you can also just grab them from here. Yeah, so that is one solution. I am unsure how I feel about it. Obviously, the inline style thing with the very hyper-specific values is pretty gross, but it is a solution. So yeah, if we got rid of this, how bad does it look again? You know, especially zoomed out. Is it really a big deal? Probably not. Does look a little bit better though, so I'm gonna keep it there. I probably won't actually include this in Tailwind UI itself, but it looks better on the stream at least. So let's keep it. All right. Okay, so we could try and figure out like an animation for this now. One thing I'm thinking that is going to make the animation tough though is, with this arrow being on a totally different element, we're not really going to be able to animate it as a group, which is going to make it hard to do like any sort of scale animation. So we might just have to do an opacity animation. VS Code theme. This is this one. It's called Community Material Theme High Contrast, and I've got a couple overrides for things to hide annoying UI elements and also to increase the contrast of things even more, I think, in certain situations. Like if you get rid of this, I think, yeah, you can see how much lighter that is, which is fine for just regular working, but I find on stream it's nice to have the higher contrast. I think you can find these on my uses page, adamwan.me/uses. If you look at VS Code, there's a gist. This is like my settings sync gist. So if you kind of just like go through here, you can kind of find whatever. I know if you search theme, I'm sure it's there, right? Yeah, so you can find all this stuff there. All right, so let's do a little bit of animation. So I'm going to, let's see, is this the div that holds everything? Yeah, so let's put a little bit of state on this because this will be kind of like the component for just this menu item. We'll call this flyout menu open, default to false. Let's move these inside of another span, and then maybe we can Z10 absolute. Oops, we can simplify some of this or remove some of the duplication. Anyways, we'll do negative translate x. Let's just grab everything up until here. We'll make this ARIA hidden so then we don't have to do it for the children. We're not going to do animation as fancy as theirs. We'll just do like probably a fade in. These are both going to be absolute inset 0. we're going to do the transform rotate 45 on this one. We're going to do transform. We'll do the scaling garbage. And this. I think this will be the same. Yeah, okay, so that looks the same and it's a little bit simpler. So let's throw some transitions on this. Maybe we'll do like X show equals fly out menu open. Do the same on this. X show fly out menu open. And we'll do a click handler on this. Equals not fly out menu open. So we should have at least like some static version of this working now. Oh, that is fucking unusual. I guess we'll just have to tweak our outline styles here. Why does that take so long? Okay, something about it with DevTools, it was like feeling really slow. It sucks that this is like considered part of the button, especially because it means like you can like click this to close it. But we could put pointer events none on that. And now it's like not clickable. And I wonder if there's a, I don't think this would work. No. I don't think focus outline none will work either because technically the span isn't focused. I wonder if we did this, if we did group focus outline none, made this a group, went to our iframe config, and just out of curiosity added outline responsive focus group focus. I expect this also to not work, but I'm curious because I think that it's not that the outline is being applied to the child, it's that the outline is being applied to the parent. Yeah, so that doesn't work. So in a lot of ways that's kind of a relief because I didn't really want to have to add that code. No, the outline, again, it's not on the triangle. The outline is on the button and it's just like leaking to the triangle. So I think what we'd want to do is probably something like this, where we'd say we would make this a group. We would do focus outline none, and then we'd probably do something like group focus. Say we did like this or something. I don't know if we even have group focus enabled for that. Yeah, there we go. So you can see like now it's like just on that. Now this element is part of that too, so it's kind of unfortunate that it's working that way. Maybe what we could do to solve that actually is we could probably move this chevron inside of this span and rework the way we do our absolute positioning. So that this is just, this could almost be relative to the button. This is going to be broken, but yeah, that's unfortunate. Basically, we need to take a bunch of these styles move them here. Wrap this in a span again, because otherwise the space utility doesn't work. Okay, so now you see like the arrows here, right? It's like aligned based on that. So I think if we did absolute right 0, we're going to be able to get this closer now. Let's default this to open so that we can manipulate it a little bit better. I've been doing live streams for years. So if we get rid of this translate, I think that'll help us see like where the default positioning is. Yeah, so we actually have to do the reverse translate now. So this. And now, with any luck, this should work no matter how long this text is. Yeah, so this is cool, right? So see how the actual card stays in the same spot no matter what, but the chevron always moves to match the position of the icon here. So that's kind of the solution that we were trying to figure out before. So Tailwind iframe config.js, that's just specific to Tailwind UI, the tool, like not even to what you would buy. It's just like my code, just like all this Laravel code and whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's nothing that anyone else has to be concerned about. It's just that's just the name of our config file for the CSS file that the components use. It's kind of a stupid name. All right, so we can toggle this open and close now, which is cool. This focus state is, you know what we could do? We could just say, I don't think we actually have an outline class. We only have outline none. I hate the default browser outline. Like, see how bad that looks? So we've been trying to figure out, like, what do we want to do as our default focus styles, especially for, like, links, like stuff that doesn't have a focus style when you click it, but only has a focus style when you tab to it. I hate the way the browser one looks, but, like, in situations like this, I can't really, like, bring that back. So it almost makes you wonder if we should be like replacing all the focus styles with just this like simple shadow outline thing that at least looks less offensive than the browser one. Anyways, let's get this animation working. So we'll just say X transition, enter. Maybe we'll do like transition, ease out, duration 200 or something. And for the start, maybe we'll just start it at opacity 0. And for the end, we'll do opacity 100. And for the leave, maybe we'll do transition ease in, duration 150, so it closes a little bit quicker. Leave start, we'll start it at opacity 100. And for leave end, we'll end at opacity 0. Okay, so see this weird crap happening where like, because, oh wait, maybe that's just because we haven't done we gotta add the same, okay, hopefully all we have to do is add the same transition classes to the, to this, and we won't have any weirdness. Please. Still doesn't look good. That's unfortunate. So even with like our z-index hack, when it's painting the transitions, it's still stacking them in like a not the right order. So this is one of those things I think if you really wanted to do it perfectly, you'd have to use JavaScript to basically find the position of this, measure it, use this, calculate the offset, and then keep this in the right container, because I think otherwise you're kind of screwed. That's a bummer. I am not sure if I can think of a better way to do that. One suggestion was to not use the shadow and use a border, but then it's going to be a slightly different color than this border. So I'll think about it. For now, I think we'll just kind of leave it as is, and we'll move on to some other interesting stuff. So I guess the real question is there even any other interesting stuff to do? There's this flyout menu. And then after that, I guess it's just like building like another menu. So, I mean, that's not boring either. Like maybe we can start hacking on another one that hopefully we can bang together pretty quick. This flyout problem is going to distract me, but that's okay. Let's just get this other menu in place and move on from there. So I think I'm going to start by basically just like grabbing this code that we have for solutions and reusing it for menu. Shouldn't really change anything. We get some Alpine stuff. It's erroring because I haven't implemented this copied stuff. Let's just stick like a 1 in front of that for a second. What's it erroring about? Flyout menu is not defined. I mean, but who cares? If I just change this to this, like, I shouldn't complain. Okay, let's make it axe. What? Foo. Okay. All right. Yeah, the triangles with SVG thing works, but then you can't use box shadow because it won't trace the SVG shape. As far as I know, I might be wrong about that, but yeah, it's tough. Really tough. Okay, so we've got our stupid little triangle here that's kind of busted. Let's do x data equals. This can be the same, honestly, because it's a separate scope. Let's default it to true while we're working on it. And I guess all this was for naught because we can just bring this back now. I don't think I'm going to include it exactly like this in Tailwind UI. Well, I'm going to talk to Steve and we might just like design it differently because I don't want the code to be super offensively complicated, right? Part of the benefit or part of one of the nice things about Tailwind UI is like you can use it to kind of learn from. And if the code is like cluttered with too many like trying to do some really complicated thing that's not really worth it, I think it takes away from that a little bit. So better to not if possible. So let's just copy this flyout menu and paste it down here. Actually, do we have this wrapped up in something? Okay, so we need to do the same thing here actually. So let's do dot relative, throw this in there, throw this there, move our x data declaration up to the wrapper. Okay, so now we got like this thing. Obviously this is not good but that's what we're gonna be working with. Kind of gives me some ideas about like general flyout placement. Like maybe it would be cool to give people the ability to easily control where the flyout was. So like instead of doing like ML6 or whatever, right, you have like, okay, so now it's just in its spot. You could do something like transform negative translate x 1/2. Even that translated way further than I expected it to. Interesting. Anyways, I'll think of some like patterns for that. Is Tailwind UI built only Tailwind CSS? Yes. So Tailwind UI has no JS. So if you look at Tailwind UI and you go to like a drop down, you see there's like a requires JS thing. If you go there, we have a bunch of documentation explaining generally how it works. So what's going on here? I screwed up my diff styles somehow. I'll have to look into that. Kind of gives you some suggestions on generally how to implement things with different libraries. But when you look at the code, you'll just see, okay, here's an element with a comment above it. It says these are the transitions that you should apply to the dropdown as it opens and closes, basically. So you can get the same kind of animation that we designed. All right, so let's look at this Figma design. So I'm just going to wipe out the contents of this thing. We'll just get rid of this, 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 this. And okay, so we've got 32. It's probably 32 on all sides. Yeah, so we'll do 8. We won't do this as a grid. That's not really necessary. But we can do like space Y whatever. 8. And then inside of this, I guess we'll just have like a bunch of links. I'm not sure if these should technically be headings or not when they're inside of a link, but I'm just going to do them as p tags, and I'll run that by a friend of ours who's helping us with the markup semantics and accessibility stuff to make sure that we do everything right. All right, so this is text-based, letting 6, font medium, text gray 900. And then the one below it. So we got a gap of 4, so I'll try and remember that. Text, SM, letting 5, text gray 500. And this will be space Y1. Okay. And what's Steve's width on this? 320? I think this one. Where did we do our width max content trick? Okay, up here. So I'm going to add that to Tailwind probably soon. What did we say 320 was in rems? 20? So max width XS. Yeah, good. All right, so let's duplicate this. I've never done a real production React project, but a lot of other people have, and they seem to like it. Like, I don't know if you follow Ryan Florence. He's a big guy in the React community, does lots of interesting stuff. He's all on the Tailwind train these days and enjoying it, so definitely works. All right. right. Security. Okay, so there's that. Probably like I'll talk to Steve about maybe he wants to do like some cool hover states for these or something. But yeah, so let's get this to work by adding a click handler here. I wonder why the z-index stuff doesn't work. Z-index order wrong during transition. Oh, that's an interesting question. What happens in other browsers? Safari basically does everything better with animations than anyone else. Oh, it's a bug in Safari too, so it might be like a WebKit bug. Let's see what Firefox does. Oh, Firefox has the issue too. Interesting. That's interesting. I wonder if that works in our case. I wonder if just transform is enough. No. Okay, so let's just see if we do an inline style, if this fixes the problem. Transform, translate, 3D. This would be pretty interesting. Maybe we can make a utility that just like forces something onto its own layer. No, it still doesn't work. Let's just add it to every single element and see if that makes a difference. No, now it's like permanently wrong. Yeah, it's definitely tricky. Like we're doing some weird stuff, admittedly, right? Like the fact that we're like trying to set the z-index of an element in a different container to make it a sandwich in between these two elements. Like you can understand why the browser might struggle with that for sure. It's too bad though. What do they say here? Oh well. All right, so that's basically this design. We got this opens. Yeah, pretty nice. This always seems to fit. I don't think anything changes about this at like really large sizes. Yeah, this is obviously kind of silly looking, but in a reality, you would just build it so that you can't open both at the same time. Okay. The top triangle, just rewind the stream and you'll see us build it. What am I doing? Okay. What one do you want to build next? We've got this one, which is like basically the same as this one, but just with some stuff slightly moved. Maybe that one would be fun to just build and just like see how quickly we can implement that modification. Then this one is kind of like a modification of this one with like different flyout menus. And with like a bottom border. Then we've got like some dark mode ones. Things get more interesting here where you've got these like full width flyouts. Which, I mean, it sounds like it's more interesting, but it's actually friggin' easy compared to the stuff that we've been doing. And the rest of this stuff is just kind of variations on the link locations. Okay, so I think like maybe a good next step would just be to bang out this one really quickly. And then we'll do like the version with the alternate flyout menus. And maybe kind of call it a day after that. If we even have time for that. So let's call this simple links centered. Do I have something that defaulted to true here? Yeah, let's close that. Okie doke. So I think literally we just need to make these links centered and then move on. So, actually, you know what? This is harder than it sounds. But still, I think it can be done. So the hard thing about centering these is you have to center them relative to the whole viewport, right? And there's content on this side and content on this side that are different widths. So just centering this in between these would put them like here, and it'll actually end up being like kind of skewed left because there's more room here. So let me think. There might be a way to do it. Like one solution I'm thinking of is you could do it using Flexbox with by setting this to width 0, making both of these flex 1, and then centering this and having it take up its space. But I think the DOM structure makes that harder because what is the book Refactoring UI about? Refactoring UI is a book that teaches you how to make your ideas look awesome without relying on a designer. You will learn how to design beautiful interfaces by yourself using specific tactics explained from a developer's point of view. It's just a book that Steve and I wrote on UI design. If you enter your email, you can get some previews. You can even just like, let's see, Refactoring UI previews. Here's like a URL. Just memorize this URL, and here's like a sample chapter. So if you're interested, you can read this. If this sample chapter seems like it's the right type of content for where you are at, then maybe the book will be a good fit. Okay, so yeah, like I was saying, we've got the way this is structured. There's a div, and then there's like a div that holds both the nav and the buttons. But actually, maybe we could pull these out for this one. Okay, let's try doing this that way. I'm going to collapse some stuff here, which I don't normally do, but it does make it a little bit easier to see stuff. I'm going to comment out this, see what we get. And I'm going to take this, we'll do class MDW0. This one will be MDW0. MD flex 1. MD flex 1. This might actually just do it. Okay, not quite. All right, so let's try MD flex grow. And then MD flex grow here. MD flex shrink 0. Let's undo back to flex 1 and approach this from a different direction. Problem is like the buttons are wrapping, right? So what if we just did like white space, no wrap? White space, no wrap. And let's see like what's happening here. So we've got, this is 129 pixels wide. This is 129 pixels wide. So that's like correct. But I think the real problem is like this menu just doesn't even fit. So if we look at Steve's design. Okay, so on Steve's design at 768, he doesn't center them. So that's like our real solution, or not real solution, but real difference here. We need to do this on LG screens. And then think about what to do for the MD screen. Okay, so here I think what we want to do is for these buttons, where are they? We want to do MD ML auto, which will push them all the way to the right. No? That. Why is this not going all the way to the right? Because this container is wider. Oh, you know why? Because of this. So these new space utilities in Tailwind, unfortunately, have a higher specificity than the utilities, which is a bummer. So I'm glad I ran into a situation that kind of proves that that can be a problem, but maybe I can think of a solution. I mean, one solution is to not use ML Auto. Instead, just do item center, justify end. Now this won't work out of the box, but it'll be a start. And then we could do like MD flex 1. There. Okay, so now that's moved over. We want to hide this stuff on mobile. So I guess you're going to want to do hidden MD flex. And this will be hidden MD flex. So there. And then when there's room to center it, we center it. Okay, so that actually did work. The flex 1 with the width 0 is like the secret sauce here. So basically what that does is it tells the browser, pretend that this item has a width of 0 pixels and that the other item has a width of 0 pixels. And then when you say flex 1, you're saying let the item grow as much as possible to fill the remaining space. And the remaining space is what's left over after you subtract the space of this thing. And actually, is this actually centered? It is centered, but the... If we got rid of this margin, does that change anything currently? Huh. I'm surprised by that. Because like you can see this item has like a left margin. So this is 260.17. 260.17. Oh, I guess the secret is that the this has a margin on the same side. If we took this and we just said like margin left 0 important, that screws everything up. So, okay, so yeah, that makes sense. Anyways, basically what's happening is this element has a width of, 381. So that's the only thing that has like a defined width. Everything else we give a fixed width of 0 from the browser's perspective. So now it's trying to divide the remaining space equally between this and this because they're both using flex grow 1. Which means they're both supposed to grow equally. If for whatever reason we said we wanted this one to have like flex grow 2, it's going to grow to be double the width of this one. Now we're not going to do that, but we could. Yeah, so that's kind of that, I think. So now it's centered. Mobile is still good. This is still fine. Back here, we've got this. Now, does this work even like a... This is the size I'm kind of concerned about. Yes, this is off screen. So that's like a find the thing, change the left margin on LG screens probably to be like negative ML12 or something, you know? It's kind of arbitrary, but that's just kind of the nature of the beast when it comes to complex layouts. Yeah, and we can kind of look at Steve's design in case he did have like a... Yeah, he kind of just has it the same, like, which won't actually work. So even this one doesn't work, eh? That might just be a problem on the other one too. Yeah, it doesn't fit on medium screens because the whole thing is well, right now it does have a max width. That's a bummer. Another solution is to just like not even try to fit it, you know, just I don't know. Actually, you know what? What if I just like on medium screens, I make that max width smaller? So what if we just did like max width XL? What? Oh yeah, do this on like LG or something. So just go to exactly 768. So we could go wider than that. We could probably go to 2XL. Yeah, it's a little bit tight, but you know, it's actually acceptable, probably. If we wanted to, we could pull this back like another couple units. And then go a little bit bigger on large screens, you know? Maybe that's like a acceptable solution. And then for the centered one, I guess we'll do the same thing. So we'll go like max width 2XL. So 2XL fits, but maybe we want to go left a little further. This is just the material theme. I think it's like VS Code material theme. If you go to the GitHub repo, this installs like a couple different themes, I think. Or I think there's like a community VS Code community material theme. I don't know. What extension did I download? It used to be called Material, and then he changed the colors, and a bunch of people didn't like it, including me. So we went to the switched to this one, which is the old one. Looks like it's this. Oh, goodness. Is this not copyable? VSC, Community Material Theme. This is the project. It's got 17 stars. The source is encrypted. Why? Okay. Seems weird. Anyways. That's the one I use, and it seems okay. All right, so this is okay now. When we get bigger, maybe we'll just keep it small on this one. I don't know. Max width 2XL. When does it switch? Oh, I guess like this one, it doesn't even open till large. Oh no. Does this get wider? Oh yeah, it does get wider when we go here. So that seems okay. I'll ask Steve, but I think this will probably be good. Hopefully one day I can figure out this shadow thing. It's probably not solvable, but maybe we can come up with something else. Okay, so I think that's actually done. Maybe we should double check this menu. Seems fine. Yeah, okay. I think I'm actually gonna stop for now because I got some other stuff to get going on. But yeah, hopefully picked up some interesting tricks. It's fun hacking on this little triangle thing. That was the main thing that I wanted to hack on a little bit on this stream. I'm going to chat with Steve a little bit offline, figure out if we can tweak the design or do something to make it require less hacky stuff and still have it look good. But anyways, hope this was fun, and maybe I'll do another stream next week, Monday or something. All right, see you everyone.